Good afternoon, everybody. This is Hunter Mozingo bringing you your daily market insight video for Monday, September 27th. A little over 5 minutes after market close here in Jacksonville, Florida, 4:07 p.m. Eastern time to be exact. I do apologize if I sound a little bit under the weather, dealing with some sinus and allergy issues, so I'm going to try and get through this and enunciate as clearly as I can. And in today's video, we're going to discuss some weakness that may present an opportunity, as well as some extreme strength in a few sectors over the last few days as well. So let's get into it, folks. What just happened? Growth stocks weak, energy and banks strong. That's evidenced by the performance in the indices today. The Russell 2000 leading the way by a long shot, up 1.5%. Usually the Russell 2000 gets the biggest boost when oil and banks do well. Mid caps up a little under 1%, 0.89. Dow slightly green, was a lot stronger earlier in the day, up 0.2%. The Qs, the laggard today, down 0.8%. The S&P down about 0.25%, and the G5 down 0.6%, which is actually a little bit skewed because IWO was the only one that's green today. It was up 1%. Most of the others were down a decent little bit. So growth stocks weak, energy and banks strong. We're going to look at those sectors, some of those stocks here in just a second and discuss that. But first, let's look at the market state. That remains in an uptrend. We're just kind of sitting right on the 21 and the 50 more or less on the S&P. Very similar situation kind of with the Qs. We're just really at a pivotal point looking for some confirmation to the upside or to the downside here in the coming days. The trend gauge has one minor change from Don's video on Friday, and that is this little yellow arrow here under leaders, as we saw some leading stocks have some really poor action today, breaking through some key moving averages, being down a pretty good bit, that type of thing. So not all leading stocks by any means, but just a few that had some harsh breaks of moving averages today. Short term remains the same as what Don had in his video on Friday. Medium and long term as well. We're looking to get some continuation or confirmation to the upside by way of consecutive closes above the 21 and the 50 for the Qs, for the S&P. Right now, we're kind of just living all around it over the last few days. Like I said, looking for some direction or confirmation of that direction, one way or the other, to the upside or the downside. So let's get straight into it. And before we get to the charts, as always, let me reference the team here at Revere first. This is me in the middle. If you have any questions, please send me an email. If you're interested in what Revere does, what our investment approach is, please, you can email me. You can email Dan, Tim, Merrill, Alex, or Don at revereasset.com as well. So let's go ahead and get into the charts here. And first, I want to show you TLT. And the reason I want to show you is because this has made a very dramatic and sharp move to the downside, which conversely means that interest rates have made a very sharp move to the upside. Now we'll see if that ends up kind of calming down a little bit, but for the time being, we've had a very volatile move for TLT and for TNX over the last few days. So a lot of that has boosted these bank stocks, obviously. So I'll show you TNX, which is the actual yield here. You can see a big move up, right? Like 4 big days up. A lot of banks are going to look very similar to that. They'll have had 4 or 5 days pretty much straight up over the last week or so. So let's go ahead. We'll look at the charts first. We'll look at the indices, then we'll look at some of those banks and some of those the other sectors as well, and we'll get into some of those laggards and maybe some of those opportunities in growth land today on some weakness. So the S&P really just going sideways after running up into this 21 and 50 area here on the 23rd. You can see we're just kind of sitting right here on the 50 and the 21, just maybe 0.1% below it on SPY. Really just looking to see if we can get a move through these highs to confirm to the upside. So on SPY, I'm looking at this 444, 445 level. If we could get through there, get some closes above that 444, 445 level, I would think that would be a great sign. On the flip side of things, I'm watching these lows, primarily this low here, this 440 level is become an important level for the S&Ps. Onward to the Qs, this 370 level, very important, also corresponds to the 50. Kind of got right back up into it at the close today. We actually had a kind of a not so great finish to the day, but the Qs pretty much sitting right here on the 50. Like I said, they were the weakest of the indices today. Same situation. I want to see the Qs get through this 370, 374 level, get back above the 50, get back above the 21, get some closes up there. But the positive is it undercut the 50 today and got right back up into it / right on it. IWM, I mentioned, it's the leader today, boosted by oils, boosted by banks, looking very strong, as you can see here, making a really nice move. Actually, IWM above all of the moving averages at the time being. And MDY, a pretty similar story, just getting its head above the 50 and the 21 here, trying to follow suit with small caps and stay above all of those moving averages, as you can see. And then lastly, DIA, which pretty much failed into the 50-day moving average. As you can see, that's more or less right at this 350 level. You can see that's pretty much right where the Dow got up to and then reversed. So on the Dow, I would similarly, I've talked about this 350 level before. I'd watch a push through today's high would be a great sign. A close above today's high would be a great sign for the Dow. So let's look at some of the strongest stocks today, and we're also going to look at some of the strongest sectors today. Tesla leading the way in the big tech land. A lot of the big tech stocks were actually pretty weak today. Tesla was strong more or less the entire day, ran up right to this 800 level and couldn't quite get through it, excuse me. But Tesla showing some nice strength with volume over the last couple of days. Really, really nice action from Tesla. And another name, Affirm, which is owned in-house, showing some nice strength today as well, up 4%. You can see the volume is continuing to stay very elevated on this name, showing a lot of leadership tendencies. That's what I said on Thursday, getting some continuation today, showing leadership on a day where the S&P was down, the Qs were down, and this name is up 4%. Like I said, add this to the top of your watch list, keep an eye on it. Netflix, another name that was really weak this morning, along with most of growth and bigger tech stocks, but bounced back really nicely and much better than a lot of the other big tech stocks. So you can see we came down all the way to the 21, actually slightly undercut it, and then ended up finishing green. Netflix was down 2 to 3% today, ended up getting back through the 21, back through the 8, and slightly positive on the day. So a nice display of relative strength from Netflix. And now let's get into those strong sectors here. So XOP up almost 8% today, getting very, very extended. I mean, we've gone from being pretty close to 80 here, 82 range, to 100 in a matter of about 4 to 5 days. Some big, strong moves. I would be very careful with a lot of these names as they've made explosive moves over the last 4 to 5 days. A lot of these ETFs and stocks very extended from their moving averages. Most likely these will pull back at some point and consolidate a little bit. So I would just be careful chasing on any of these as they have. I mean, 82 to 100 for an ETF, that is a pretty substantial move. The other ETFs in the space here, XLE, this is a slower one. It's more of your Chevron, Exxon type of names. You can see it is extended as well, not so much as XOP, however. And then OIH is your oil and gas services ETF, also not as extended, but poking its head above the moving averages with some volume as well. So XOP certainly looking like the leader of that group. And then let's go to banks and look at some of these moves, and you're going to see some similar type of action. Some of these are a little bit extended as well. You see KRE making a really strong move off of this bottom here from 60 up to 68 in about 5 or 6 days. This is your regional bank ETF. I've mentioned SIVB as being maybe the leader of the group and also making a really strong move. This is about a 15 to 20% move for SIVB over the last 5 or 6 days here, from this 574 low up to 674 here. Very strong move once again, now a little bit extended, 7% from the 8, 12% from the 21. You can see that has not happened in quite some time here on SIVB. And a few more strong sectors, XME, metals and mining, having a good day today. Some of these stocks have been pretty beat up, like the Nucors and Steel Dynamics, Freeport, your FCX. Those names, some of those living below the moving averages, but nonetheless having a strong bounce today. A couple more here, Jets. having a nice day. This is AAL is one of the best looking in this group, but the travel sector also showing some resurgence, right? Your airlines, your cruise lines, those types of names. And then lastly, this sector was really, really hot and came back to earth a little bit. But uranium, these are ETFs here, reclaiming the 21-day moving average, as you can see, with some volume here. So URA reclaiming the 21-day moving average, and then also URNM doing the same thing, another uranium ETF. So those are the positives for today. Let's look at some of the laggards. And I mentioned growth was weak. Here's some of these names. As you can see, Fortinet, cybersecurity particularly weak today, down 4%. CrowdStrike also down around 3 or 4%. Weak today, but this 250 level is very important on CrowdStrike. I'd keep an eye on that. NVIDIA also weak today, down about 2%. Did end up getting back in the top of the range, but this is what we meant when we changed the leaders arrow pointing towards neutral, the small little one. NVIDIA slicing through the 21. Ideally, you want to see it get back over the 21. A couple of more here. Net also very weak today, blowing through the 21 and closing more or less right on the 50. A tough day for Net, tough last couple of days for Net. You can see these 3 days here. Would be expecting a bounce or a hold of this 50. This has been one of the leading stocks in the market, but this is the first time Net has touched the 50 since this move began. Could possibly be a good buying opportunity here. Define your risk, know where your stop's at. You know, maybe that's 2% below the 50. You can see this 120 level is also an area of interest. You want to keep an eye on that as well. So Net, one of the weaker names today. Also, Datadog, I mentioned this one might present an opportunity back to the 21. You got that today. It held it. We'll see if that continues to hold, but also similar to Net, 3 days down. I'd look for this one to possibly bounce as well, but this is a leading stock coming back to the 21 on a day where growth was weak. This is one that held up where it should have held up. A few more areas of the market that were weak. Here's Microsoft for you, down about 2%, just to further elaborate on the big tech being weak kind of theme going on today. And then also the software sector down 1.7%. I mean, that's double what the Qs were down. The S&P was slightly down. So some pretty extreme weakness in software today on the backs of interest rates being up and banks having a good day. So software really took it on the chin today. Also, you even had XLV, healthcare sector, having a really poor day, down 1.5%. Some of these names like Align down about 3% today, coming back to the 50. So some tough action today in a lot of areas, not just in your standard growth stocks, right? Not just your technology. I mean, there was plenty of medical stocks having a tough day. Restaurant stocks like Chipotle also down more than the indices, down 2% today. So some tough action basically if you aren't oil and gas or banks or Tesla, more or less. A few more names here that I want you to keep on your radar. I've talked about them before. Unity Software, weak today, but holding up right here at this 8-day exponential moving average. And then Square, cutting below these moving averages, which is not great, but I would keep a close eye on this 260 level. If Square can clear this 260 level and get back above those moving averages, I'd keep an eye on this name as well. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Once again, I hope it was valuable to you all. And if you have any questions, please send me an email, ask me anything. I'd be happy to respond. But I hope everyone has a great week, and I will see you on Thursday's video. Thank you.